Well, hi, and welcome to another LRCC Soundbite. Let's carry on with my look at some of the oldest stories in the Bible, and I'll tell you what happened after the story we had last week. If you remember, I talked about Sarah and Abraham. They were both very old when God told Sarah she was going to have a baby, and they both laughed. Don't be so ridiculous, they were thinking. And, after all these years of never being able to have a baby, how is it going to happen when Sarah's probably in her 90s and Abraham's similar, sort of about 100 years old? But it did happen, because, as God pointed out, nothing is impossible for him. So, here we are, less than a year later, and Sarah and Abraham have a new baby boy. And I think they chose the most amazing name for him. They called him Isaac. Why is that amazing, you might ask? Well, you would ask, unless you happen to speak ancient Hebrew. The name Isaac is like the word for laughter. Because they both laughed when God said they'd have a baby, they decided to call him Laughter. And I think, what a great start in life to have a name like that. Immediate happiness. Now, I'm sure he wasn't always the perfect little boy. So at times, I think the irony of his name probably wasn't lost on them. But Laughter, that's what they called him. God continued to be into doing things that people thought were impossible. Just in the area of childbirth, there are several examples of couples either unable to have children or not in a situation where they could have children, finding that because God said so, they were going to have a family. There's more in this family line. We'll maybe meet some of them in the next few weeks. But even thousands of years later, it was still going on. There's a man I've talked about before called John the Baptist. He was a cousin of Jesus. His parents, Zechariah and Elizabeth, they were both very old. They'd been unable to have any children. And one day, Zechariah had a visit from an angel named Gabriel. Yes, it's the same one who went to see Mary to tell her she was going to have baby Jesus. Well, Zechariah heard news from Gabriel that he didn't believe that he and Elizabeth were going to have a baby. So he got a sign that it was really going to happen. He lost his voice. For the next 9 months, he was unable to say anything. After his son was born, they had to decide what he would be called. Now, given what I've just said about Isaac, you may be expecting me to tell you that they decided they were going to call him Silence. But no. Actually, all the people wanted to call him Zechariah after his father, because that's commonly how children were named. But this time, the angel had told Zechariah what his son should be called. Elizabeth knew, and she'd told people what they should call him, that he should be called John, but they didn't believe her. So Zechariah had to get them to bring him something to write on, because, remember, he still can't speak. And he wrote a very simple message. His name is John. And so his son was called John, and from that moment Zechariah regained his voice and was able to speak again. The peace was broken, you might say. So, names can be really important. Sometimes something in them almost characterises the person and sets them up for life. Isaac, the baby called Laughter, wouldn't always find laughter in his life, but at least he could always be reminded of the amazing thing that God did for his parents. The name Jesus means one who saves, and given what Jesus was going to do later in his life, to make it possible for anyone to be saved from the judgment due to them for everything that they've ever done wrong, and instead become a friend of God. The name One Who Saves is really appropriate. We call ourselves Lindbergh Road Community Church because we want to be here for Lindbergh Road and the whole community around it. Do come and say hello to us one Sunday afternoon if you're around. We always love meeting new people and old friends, of course. Have a great week. God bless you. I'll see you next time.